Today from Lincoln, it's men's gymnastics as Penn State and Nebraska will meet for the 12th time in a series that began in 1983. Two top 10 teams. Nebraska finished third last year in the NCAAs, and Penn State stepped up big at the Big Ten Championships to take home the trophies. We are in Lincoln, the University of Nebraska, the number 4 team in the country, as they host number 8 Penn State. It's men's gymnastics on the Big Ten Network. Of course, the Big Ten always prominent in the national standings. You see Michigan at 2, our 2 teams at 4 and 8. Ohio State, Illinois, Iowa, and Minnesota also right there. And hello, everybody. I'm Dean Linke. And speaking of Minnesota, 4-time all-around champion from Minnesota, 3-time Olympian, John Roethlisberger. And, John, here we go again. BTN top 10 matchup.
And it's going to be a good one. Both of these teams are going to contend at the end of the season for a Big Ten title. Penn State obviously trying to repeat. And you're looking at Penn State, they've got a guy, and I will not be overstating this. He has the best routine in all of college gymnastics. Steven Yarotska, he is world class on the pommel horse. And he is one of these guys that this summer is going to try to be competing in Tokyo.
He just won the World Cup in Melbourne. Meanwhile, Nebraska, their only senior on senior day. How sad is this? Jake Benet is out with an injury. That means there'll be some youngsters stepping up for the Cornhuskers.
And that is unfortunate. He's top 25 on 2 events. And other leaders like Jonathan Skripnik, they're going to have to step up. As you mentioned, some young guys, some freshmen and sophomores are going to have to step up as well if Nebraska's going to do it again this year and have a great postseason.
All right, so here we go as we'll start on the first rotation, Olympic style. Nebraska is the host, so the Cornhuskers will start on the floor, and Penn State will start on the horse, where they're number 1 in the country. Up first for Nebraska is one of those youngsters as they start several freshmen.
Yeah, Kenji is a former Canadian junior national team member, and the great part about this part of the season, Dean, is previously to this week, men's college gymnastics would put 6 guys up on each event, and 5 of those 6 scores would count. But now, after the Winter Cup, which was last weekend, they go to, big mistake right out of the gate for Nebraska. After the Winter Cup, they go to 5 up, 5 count. That means all 5 gymnasts that compete, those scores will count towards the team total. They cannot count a mistake, just like Kenji made right there. That is going to be part of their team score now. They can't take it back. They can't wipe it away, and that's what makes this part of the season so exciting.
It's white knuckle time, as both coaches said, when you've got the 5 up, 5 count situation.
So he finishes clean, but that is a massive error. That is a 1-point deduction from his total score, plus he loses the value of that skill, which we'll talk about that throughout the competition as well. That's like a double whammy when you make this mistake in the sport of men's gymnastics.
Penn State will start on the horse, as we said, number 1 in the country on the horse, led by Steven Yarotska in the anchor. But Penn State will start with Alex Frack, a junior from Nazareth, as he's averaging 13.55. His high is at 13.75.
And this is such a big event for Penn State. As you said, number 1 in the country. This young man is number 24 in the country. They've got 5 actually in the top 25, does Penn State on pommel horse. And to have a guy like Frack lead off your pommel horse rotation, the great swing, really clean so far. Not too bad. Not too bad for a 4th or 5th guy up in your rotation. Outstanding for a leadoff guy, and that's big, especially on pommel horse, to hit that first routine, get the momentum going. You see a little soft knees on that back travel and a little slow going up to the handstand, but those are pretty minor deductions. Great start.
Randy Jepson fired up. Penn State number 1 in the nation, Nebraska 3 on the horse. That could be a major difference maker in this one as we push back over to the floor, and it's Dylan Young. So Young in that second spot as we're still awaiting the first score for Tomini, the freshman from Toronto. Now it's this freshman from Burbank, California, First time on the floor this season for Mr. Young, and this late in the season, there has to be some extra nerves for him, John.
Yeah, that's, you don't usually see that. By this point of the season, usually you're going to get some experience by now, but that's what it's about. The best teams, the teams that win, have that ability. If somebody goes down, and that's what Chuck Schmelka talked about before this weekend. If somebody goes down, we rally, and the next guy up. We mount. Obviously, landing deductions, big on-floor exercise, but the amount of deductions you can take on landings can be surprising. That little slide of the heels, probably just 1/10. But if you take a step that's really wider than your shoulders, that hop, probably also a 10th. But if it gets wide as your shoulders, you're going to start to get into those 3/10 steps. There's also deductions for body positions when you land. If your shoulders are low, that can be another deduction. If you don't finish the twist as you land, that can be a third deduction. So they add up quickly. So those guys that can land clean like that, they are so valuable on floor exercise. Double twist, a simple dismount, but that stuck landing, and this is important too, a stuck landing for a dismount in men's gymnastics gets you a bonus 10th. So he will get a 10th back in bonus for this right here. Double twist, opens up, perfect landing. Now when you compare that to someone that takes a large step on their landing and gets a 3/10 deduction, that can be a 4/10 swing. So when you see stuck dismounts, it's huge.
All right, we move back over to the horse, and the #1 team in the nation on the horse. Up second is Valdez, as you see the score for Alex Frack, a 13-150.
It wouldn't surprise me if that score was a little bit higher, to be honest with you.
Valdez, John, #6 in the nation, as Penn State features 3 of the top 6 in the country.
That's ridiculous, and that is such an ace in the hole for them. And that is another great routine. 5 up, 5 counts so far, 2 for 2 for Penn State. And he's got the perfect body for pommel horse. He's slight, he's not big and bulky. Got that skinny, straight body line, which is so good for those circular actions. Nice job.
Valdez, career high is a 14.35, a season high 14.25. We'll see how close he gets to that as we move back over to the floor. Cooper Giles, he and his brother, both part of Nebraska. Of course, for years we talked about the Stevensons, Chris and Anton. Those are special young men. Now they're at the University of Nebraska Medical School in Omaha. And Coach Chuck Schmelka is so proud of the Stevensons, and now he's got 2 Giles to groom.
Nice mount. Both of the Giles brothers coming out of Premier Gymnastics in the Chicago area. Coached by an old teammate of mine, actually, from the 2000 Olympics, who went on to the 2004 games, won gold medal, Paul Hom. His brother Morgan on that team with him as well. They won the silver medal as a team, and great role models for these young guys.
Charlie, a sophomore, career high 14-0 this year against Minnesota, your alma mater, and Army.
14 on floor is a good score. You're going to see some 15s on floor exercise. 15 is a fantastic score, but you're getting in the mid-14s on floor, you're doing something right. A little low on that last front full. Had to kind of get squirrely in the air. Another stuck dismount. That's big. Remember now, they're counting a miss. Their first guy up had a fall, but since then they have been perfect. And this is a relatively simple dismount, just a double twist, but it's a strategy by Nebraska without question. When we saw Ohio State, Penn State a few weeks ago, Dean, we saw a lot of triple twist dismounts and a lot of deductions. And that is exactly why Nebraska's doing what they're doing. They're not taking deductions, and they're getting that bonus 10.
All right, move back over to the horse, and it's Jack Baldwin, the junior from New York, averages 13.63, a 14.25. Best performance of his career last weekend against William and Mary.
And that is the difference between floor and pommel horse. A 14 on pommel horse is a great score. And they are going to get one if he can finish the way he started here. This is a great set. Dismount's critical. And that is a massive deduction. He will not get credit for that dismount unless he goes up and does it again. And here's what Randy Jepson's doing right now. He's having a little meeting to decide if he needs to do it again, and he absolutely should. If you go up towards the handstand and drop back down, the judges, in addition to the deduction for doing that, they can take the whole value for that dismount. So you're actually better off taking a 1-point fall, getting up there, and doing it again, and that's exactly what Baldwin's going to do.
All right, here he goes again.
Does it pretty well the second time. A fall for both teams, though. That's big. That is big because this is an event for Penn State. They can put some distance between them and anyone else in the country, and they just gave at least a point and a half back right there.
Baldwin, with Yarotska gone, finished first on the horse, but with that fall, it won't happen this time around as we move back over to the floor. And Zach Peters, the junior from Greenwood, Indiana, his season high is a 14.20, a career high 14.35.
All right, let's work, ZP. Work.
Big mount, full twist and double layout. Front double full. Whoa, and he should not have landed that on his feet. That second front full so low, but found his feet and stayed in bounds. Nice double twist and double back. Got it on track now.
You can hear the teammates telling him to breathe.
Got a 15.3 start value. At least that's what he should have if he keeps the script.
Here we go, academic all Big Ten honors for Zach Peters.
Big deep breath for a much more difficult dismount right here. That was big. That's big time gymnastics. And it all starts with this first pass right here. A double layout somersault with a full twist in the middle. That is just big time stuff. Done well. Teammates love it.
Rockin' in Lincoln. There's Chuck Schemelka, who was part of 3 national championship teams under Sir Francis Allen. We'll have more on how they're honoring Francis Allen, who I believe coached you at some point along the way, right?
He was a national team coach for many years. I was on the team while he was coaching, and he's a fun coach to have around, no doubt about it. Coached us in the '92 Olympic Games as well.
Here is Nick Mock, described in one way that you're not described, JR, the Clint Eastwood on pommel horse.
I was more the Brad Pitt, I think, is what they referred to me as. This is a big routine right here, though. You saw that 11.9 right before him, and that's big. Whoa, what a save!
Number 3 in the country for a reason, Nick Mock.
And he's fighting right here. He is not exactly on. It's an important dismount. Doesn't get it. Oh my gosh, this is a disaster for Penn State. And Randy, that's his not happy face right there. And that was critical. Right here, you can tell he's tired. He's been off for most of this routine and just runs out of gas. That is not an uncommon sight in men's gymnastics. Pommel horse dismounts get people time and time again.
We saw him on BTN set his career high against the Buckeyes of 14.45. Obviously, you won't get that today.
No, and they needed a big score. That is going to be down there around the 12s. So 2 big misses for Penn State. They started off so great. And now things have gone sideways. They have their ace in the hole at the end here, but you like to have them as an exclamation point, not as a desperate move, and that's what it's become for Penn State.
All right, we move back to the floor. Griffin Keeler, the junior from Frisco, Texas. He is averaging a 14. His season high is 14.05. He put up a 14.5 2 years ago on the floor.
He's top 25 in the nation right here. Nice mount! And that was a big deduction, but he avoided a massive mistake. Good fight. You saw those 2 scores in the mid-14s for Nebraska. Those are very good floor scores. They started slow as we saw that mistake, but so far they've been fantastic, trying to capitalize on Penn State's mistakes on pommel horse.
Keeler, a co-captain, and he was an All-American as a freshman on the floor.
Comes from Woga, a club in Texas. Produced numerous outstanding female gymnasts. Carly Patterson, Nasty Lukin, both Olympic champions. He's had some mistakes, but if he can finish this dismount clean, it should be a decent score. 2.5 twist. That's probably a 3/10 hop. This first pass, though, it's a double front, and it's a blind landing. So lay out front into a double front, and when you're under-rotated, you have no power almost to stay on your feet. He just scrambles those legs, keeps his feet underneath him, and saves it.
Here we go, the gold medalist from the World Cup just last week in Melbourne, Australia, comes back after standing on the podium. And here he goes, folks. Steven Yarotska, #1 in the country.
Watch this. And he's going to do an easier routine than he did in the World Cup. He usually goes around on that pommel a few more times. That's a mistake. Covered it up quite nicely, though, but he took a skill out. Now, I'm not sure where they're going to end up on his start value. He's off as well. Man, the ground must be uneven in Nebraska for these Penn State Nittany Lions, because this pommel horse is knocking them sideways. And you know what? It looked like an outstanding performance, but Steven Yarotska knows that is not good for him. That's a 360 stock. He's supposed to go back to the middle of the pommels, but he goes out to the end, and it doesn't look like a break because he's so clean, but it is, and that is very unfortunate for Steven Yarotska. He did take a skill out too. He's supposed to go back to the middle of the pommels and do a 360 care, it's called, or a sewn, named after another Penn State gymnast, and he did not do that skill, so his start value is going to be extremely low for him. Bad start for the Nittany Lions.
This is the only all-arounder. This will not count for the 5-up, 5 count, but it will ensure that Evan Criley wins the all-around because he's the only one going. We'll see what he can do on the floor.
And this is a nice thing for them to be able to do. When it goes to 5-up, 5 count, you can still put that next guy up to compete in the all-around. They can do that at the Big Ten Championships as well. And it's also a good way to keep some depth. You know, he's the next guy up should somebody else make a mistake, and he'll be ready to go. He's got that experience, but also gives him a chance to compete for a Big Ten title in the all-around.
His high on the floor is a 13.65.
Ooh, that was a mistake. Needs to hold that handstand for 2 seconds.
Let's go, Ed. Let's go, Ed. Got it. Go, Bart. Put it down. Nice. Come on now. Come on now. Got it, Ed. Let's go. Stay tight. Come on. Nice. Come on now.
Nebraska's going to have a lead after this first rotation. It's just a matter of by how much. And they are good on pommel horse too, so they're in a good spot. It's early, but they're in a great spot so far. Nice triple twist. That's a great set. They probably wish they would have let off their rotation with that one. That was outstanding.
Nebraska 5th in the nation on the floor. Penn State #1 on the horse, but Penn State had a few slip-ups. Nebraska had the first one, then came back strong. This matchup always tight. Nebraska and Penn State. Great to be in Lincoln for Big Ten men's gymnastics, a top 10 matchup between Nebraska and Penn State. And it features arguably the biggest story right now in college men's gymnastics, even on the international stage. Steven Yarotska winning the World Cup over in Australia and still making the trip to Nebraska. And guess what, folks? Steven Yarotska, fresh off the horse, joins us now. And Steven, first, talk about what happened in Melbourne. Congratulations on winning that gold medal.
Yeah, thank you so much. Melbourne was an excellent experience. Adjusting to the time zone and such was a bit difficult, but I was able to even impress myself with how I was able to adjust. I made some smart decisions on day one, but I ended up getting the job done, making it to finals. And I just kept myself together for day two and was able to knock out one of the best routines I've ever done. And I was able to take home gold as well.
Hey, Steven, John Roethlisberger here. Congratulations. I watched you win that gold medal. It was amazing. But it most importantly kept your individual hopes alive for an Olympic berth. There's 2 more World Cups. Talk about what you need to do now, training and competition-wise, to maybe make that dream come true. It's on the cusp.
Yes, sir, it is. And that was the meet to get gold. And luckily for me, I'm going to also be sent to Doha and Baku. For those competitions, I'm going to have to perform similarly. Bringing home gold on both of those, along with very high scores, would guarantee me a spot to Tokyo, because I'd have to win in a certain tiebreaker. But really, when it comes down to it, I just need to keep the right mindset while I'm training in the gym and bring that into the competition field when I'm out there.
Finally, Steven, we're seeing Caleb Booth on the floor. At the end of the day, you're looking for a team title, particularly in Minnesota, for the Big Tens. Talk about the unity with this team.
Oh, this team is just amazing. We move as a unit, really. We cheer for each other like no other team I've been on since I've been in college, and it's just a really strong family. All of us have really strong bonds with one another, and we're just working our hardest this year to be able to bring home that title once again, and hopefully at NCAAs as well.
Steven Yarotska, we showed you on the podium winning that World Cup. Thanks so much for spending some time with us here on BTN.
Of course, thank you.
All right. The goggled wonder boy right there, Steven Yarotska.
If we had a couple more minutes, I would have asked him the true story behind those goggles. I've heard some other stories, but I wanted to hear it from the pommel horse's mouth, so to speak.
As you see, Caleb Booth, the sophomore from Knoxville, Tennessee, as he's averaging a 13.483, a season best we saw against the Buckeyes. He's got a career high of 13.95 as we move back over to the horse. And we need to remind you, Nebraska not a slouch. They were #1 at one point before Penn State took them over. They're now #3 in the country. They've had a high of 6.835 this year as a team.
And this is a big point in this competition. 2.5 points after one rotation. Nebraska has a lead, but keep in mind, pommel horse, we've saw it from Penn State. Easy to have mistakes. It's a lower scoring event than floor exercise. So Penn State absolutely can make up that 2.5 points right here. But Nebraska, as you mentioned, Dean, they're good here.
Noah Erweiler, a freshman, redshirt freshman from right there in Lincoln. What is going on, as you said, not just for Penn State, but now for the Cornhuskers?
And right out of the gate, and this makes your rotation so much more difficult. The first guy up has a mistake. And this is horse in a nutshell, man. You're on until you're not. And it can happen real quick.
Of course, familiar face right there, Jim Hartung, who with Chuck Schmelka won those 3 national champions. And Jim Hartung, one of the all-time great gymnasts, right?
He was one of the greatest collegiate gymnasts of all time, as well as an Olympic gold medalist from 1984. And there's a good finish, but that's an unfortunate start. That fall is going to count to the team score, and there's 4 guys yet to go. They know what just happened. The pressure just got a little bit more intense.
Nebraska with the lead through the first rotation, as you see Chuck Schmelka pretty much has been in Nebraska forever. He was a 3-time national champion. He worked under Francis Allen, and of course a natural choice when Sir Francis decided to retire. Chuck slid right in there. You talk about a guy who bleeds Cornhusker red. It's all about that for Chuck.
Oh gosh, absolutely. And I know, Nebraska hasn't been living up to their glory years as of late in the last decade or so, and for Chuck, it's eaten him alive. But last year finishing third at the NCAAs was big for them, a great step forward.
Yeah, huge, because a disappointing time at the Big Ten Championships won by Penn State. Here's Sam Zakutny, the former Canada national champ. Very elegant and clean, according to Coach Jepson. Career high 14.6. Because of his ankle, this is the first time he's been on floor all season.
Yeah, and he is so critical to that team that he is healthy. So they've got to be careful. You don't want to put him out there too early. You don't want to have him do difficulty that is too high. And you're going to see this routine is not ultimately what Sam is capable of, but still, even with a lower start value, as clean as he is, he's the type of guy that can still score big. You want to put him on there if you can.
Penn State 10th in the nation on floor, and it's hard to believe they're 10-0 again. They did it last year, but really Randy Jepson feels like they're not totally at their peak. Zakutny's not all the way back. They've had some other nicks and bruises that are normal. They might peak at the right time again this year.
And that's exactly what happened last season. They just snuck in there and they took the title, and that was a good routine from Sam. A few hops on landings, a 10th here, maybe a 3/10 step there, but Randy likes it. He knows that he did the job he was supposed to do.
You can read his lips saying, good job, Sammy. Sam Zakutny in that second spot for Coach Jepson.
Caleb Booth, by the way, a 14.65 for a start score on floor. That is big time, especially when Noah Erweiler went 11.55. So just like that, that lead is gone for Nebraska.
So let's bring up Mitch Tyndall, sophomore from Canada. Of course, if you recognize the Tyndall name, you'll know why. He had a brother that was great at Penn State, and he's got one that's still active with Ohio State, as they've got the Big Ten covered.
Ooh, nice save right there.
Season high, career high 13.7.
Nice job. He stopped the bleeding. And that's what you got to do, and it's so tough as a gymnast to go up after a miss. The pressure is on, but he did it. Chuck Schmelka happy with it. Knows how important that routine is. 3 more to go for Nebraska.
Randy Jepson transferred into Penn State to finish his gymnastics career, and kind of like Chuck, just stayed in Happy Valley. Why go anywhere? 29 amazing seasons, and as he's told us on the phone, he's not going anywhere. He might go 29 more.
I believe it, man. He's still got the energy to do it.
Eric Lung, sophomore from Livingston, New Jersey, averaging 13.6. He set his career high last week against William & Mary with a 13.75.
Sam Zakutny got a 13.9 moments ago, which isn't bad. It's not a great floor score, but I think that's about what Randy Jepson was probably be expecting from Sam at this point with that ankle injury. Full twisting butterfly, cool skill. That's what I'm talking about. See how low his shoulders were when he landed that. As perfect as that landing seemed, the judges, they could take 3 on that if they were really being tough. There's a triple twist dismount. Pretty clean, took a step on the landing, probably just a 1/10 step. Looked like he was lost there, looking around at the end. So far, a good rotation for Penn State, trying to capitalize on an early Nebraska fall on Pommel Horse.
Yes, sir.
All right, in the middle for the 5-up, 5 count is a freshman, the younger brother of Charlie, Cooper Giles, the freshman. 13.7, 6'7" average. His season high, and obviously his career high for the true freshman, was 13.85 set this year against the Iowa Hawkeyes.
He's good on this event, 10th in the country currently. When the Junior Olympics a couple times before coming to college on this event. That one pommel work is worth a lot of points. Had got a little bit off there, but managed to stay on. Another big error. Gets it back together. Not bad. He had some breaks, obvious visible breaks, but good fight. Not going to be a huge score, but man, he avoided the major 1-point fall, and that is critical at this point. And that's a pretty big error. That's going to be a 5/10er for hitting the horse, plus the form breaks. And this dismount has an error there. And that angle of his legs in relationship to the horse needs to be a little bit higher. And yeah, deep breath after that one. He knows he might have got away with one that he shouldn't have. Good fight.
All right, we move back over to the floor, and it's Robbie Shamp, the freshman. He had a 14-1 career high against Air Force early in the season. And his coach, Randy Jepson, calls this young man one of the most explosive freshmen in the country.
And you saw that right out of the gate on that first pass. Nice. So far, Penn State averaging over a 14 on this floor rotation.
They needed it because they certainly did not look like the #1 team in the country on the horse.
No, and you know, as they get further into this competition, they're going to look back at that first rotation and go, man, what if? Because they left a lot of points on the table. Another triple twist. And that is a perfect example of why Nebraska does the double full dismounts that they stick. He was short on the twist, which is probably a 3/10 deduction. His feet were apart, maybe far enough that could have been a 3/10 deduction as well. Look right here. So comes around, little foot form in the air. You can see how he lands like a ski jumper. That is a 3/10 deduction, at least moves that foot. So the deductions add up quick, and that is a risk-reward situation.
It was Cooper Giles a moment ago. Now it's his older brother, Charlie Giles. 14-3 season and career high, like his brother, set his career high against Iowa. One Giles does well, the other Giles does even better.
They need a big one, too. You can see they're averaging under a 13, while Penn State's averaging over a 14 in this rotation. Nice big step over that far pommel. That's a tough travel. Got to do a clean dismount. Nice. Great job.
This young man's already got 2 horse titles this season.
And here's the dismount. That is how it is supposed to be done. Steady speed all the way through the handstand, right into the pirouette.
So we move back over for the anchor, Brennan Pantazis, junior from Sparks, Nevada, averaging a 13.7. But he, like a lot of these Nittany Lions with no Nebraska, had a season best 14.0 against William and Mary. His career high is a 14.5. He's a Big Ten champion his freshman year on the floor.
Oh, tough mount, but big mistake. Big hop, plus going out of bounds with both feet is a 3/10 deduction. Comes back with a nice double twisting double back. Short on that as well. All Penn State has to do on this last routine is hit relatively clean, and they, I think, are going to get back the lead. Obviously, someone left to go on pommel horse from Nebraska, but got 3 scores in the 14s, 1 13-9 from Sam Zakutny, but Pantaz is certainly capable of getting well into that 14 range.
Tell you that Shamp tied his career high on the floor. Part of the reason why Penn State is Gonna climb right back into this after a tough start on the horse.
Another triple twist dismount again, short of the twist. Little low with those shoulders and slid those feet. He's got a high start value. He's got a 15.6 start value, but I think he had too many deductions even to make it into the 14s on this. But look at this, front full, right to a 2.5 twisting front. That is incredibly difficult. It's not one of those big high flying skills like the full twisting double layout, but it is worth a lot of points. But man, when you make that error, big hop out of bounds, that's gonna hurt.
So here's the only all-arounder going today. It's Evan Criley, the sophomore from Tampa. We do want to remind you that not only is Jake Benet out, but Dylan Young has a sore wrist, so he's not going to participate in the horse, and he's part of the reason Nebraska's third in the country. Criley, a season high of 13.85.
Pretty clean so far. Oh, that was fantastic. Great dismount. Textbook. Look at this handstand. Quick to the handstand. Pirouettes down the horse and then back to the other end. Great feeling. Nice finish.
1 in 3 coming in nationally on the horse, but really it's been the story on the floor that will tell you who's leading after 2. Nebraska will go to the rings. Penn State will go to the vault. Big Ten men's gymnastics on the Big Ten Network. Stay with us. Men's gymnastics on BTN is brought to you by State Farm. Talk to an agent today. The Thon, the Penn State Dance Marathon, raising $11,700,000. Incredible. And for the 4th straight year, the Penn State men's gymnastics team won the Thon as the best routine. The dance marathon going over 45 hours. And Stephen Nedarosik was probably clapping from Melbourne as he knew it. I was actually in Happy Valley doing a lacrosse game. There was more noise just lining up for the dance thon. I mean, the entire community was hyped up for the thon. It was amazing.
I don't know. Do you think the men's gymnastics team got more excited when they won that or when they won the Big Ten championship last year? Because we saw the Big Ten championship, and I just saw that, and I'm thinking it's at least a coin flip. And I also want to know, did Randy Jepson participate, and did he do the robot?
Yeah, he didn't participate, but he did have a lot of pride in the fact that his seniors have won it every single year, the thon. He was actually in Las Vegas at the Winter Cup, so he wasn't able to be there for it, but super proud of his team as Penn State making the news on and off.
And a good cause, raising money, and it's great to see them doing that.
So Penn State, after 2 rotations, is able to climb back into the lead. How about that? Penn State #1 on the horse, Nebraska #3 on the horse, and both teams a little bit of a struggle.
Didn't look like it tonight, did it? That's the realities of pommel horse for men. It's like balance beam for women. You can be dominant, but man, you got to do it every time, and that event can come up and bite you. See Jake Benet, their coveted senior on crutches. Hate to see that. Hopefully they can get a miracle and have him come back. Yet for the postseason, we shall see, and he's important to that team.
And Chuck Shimelka still holding out hope that Benet will be back. That wasn't the only loss, though, for this Nebraska team, as Chuck Shimelka talking about how hard the team was hit as you go on the rings. Nikita Belatsky out for the season. He was one of the best in the country, 11th in the Big Ten, and he is out. So they start with Jonathan Skripnik, the junior from Canada.
And you can see how quickly things can shift in men's gymnastics. A 2.5-point lead for Nebraska after 1, now a 3.6 lead for Penn State after 2. When you fall and lose a point in deductions plus the value of skills, things can change quickly, and that's why you've just got to be steady as she goes, put past mistakes behind you.
Nebraska 10th in the nation on the rings.
Nice start from Skripnik. Nice 1.5 twisting double tuck dismount Tend to see quite a few of these in men's gymnastics. It's a blind landing, though, and he handles it very well.
Set his career high back in 2018 with a 13.6. Penn State 14th in the nation on the vault. Their high this season is 71.05. They'll start with Parker Clayton, who's got a season best of 13.95. His career high a year ago of 14.3.
When we saw Penn State earlier this year, they did some great vaults, very clean. Maybe not the most difficult vaults you're going to see, but they had clean in the air, clean landings. I didn't think the judges rewarded them for the quality of vault that they had, but you're going to see this vault quite a bit. Sukahara with a double twist, big hop on the landing, and I do believe that right foot went over that line. That's a 1/10 deduction for 1 foot, 3/10 for 2 feet. On the line is in. Let's take another look at it right here. It's a little crooked on the table. Yep, that foot definitely over the line. Piked down a little bit too at the end there. Shoulders very low on the landing, so there's some spots where the judges are going to hit him. Not sure that that will quite get into the 14s. We shall see. It starts from a 14.8.
Move back over to Dylan Young. He's not able to go on the horse, but is healthy enough to handle the rings for Coach Chuck Schemelka. And here goes Young, freshman, 13.5 season high and career high at Illinois.
Nice back upright straddle plunge, and then he pulls those legs together, which makes that plunge position much, much more difficult. Nice Yamawaki series, those double fronts in between the rings. One piked, one tucked. Pretty darn clean routine so far. Stick the landing, it's gonna be great, but he doesn't. Oh, man. That routine, it's not the biggest start value, but he was hitting it as clean as he possibly could, and then things went wrong at the end. But look at this, back upright straddle plunge, and right there, when he brings the legs together, it makes it so much more difficult. We'd like to see him hold that legs together position just a fraction of a second longer, but double twisting double, a tough dismount. It just doesn't quite get it around enough.
So we move back over to Penn State. Caleb Booth after Clayton with a 13.85.
This is the Yarchenko style vault, also a double twist. A little sloppy in the air. Again, a big hop with that foot going over the line. We saw a 13.85 for Clayton in the leadoff spot. I think this is going to score right around that same number. See, a little sloppy with his feet. A little shorter on the distance, too. I think that foot went over the line.
Booth, a transfer from UIC, set his career high at the West Point Open this year of a 14.3. Don't think he'll top that.
Now keep in mind, in this rotation, rings is not as high of a scoring event as vault is in men's gymnastics. Vault, you're typically going to see scores. Decent scores are going to be right around a 14. The very good scores will be high 14s, maybe a 15 here and there. On the rings, on the other hand, you're going to see a lot more scores in the 13s, like Jonathan Skripnik right there, who hit his routine, went 13.35. It's much more difficult on rings to get up close to those 15s than it is on the vault, even the mid-14s, to be honest with you.
So with Bilotsky out, they had to put somebody in. This is Mitch Tyndall's first go this year at the rings. He did perform on the rings last year, though, John. He had a 13.2.
Started off, you saw the legs together plunge to start things off. Then he goes back upright straddle plunge. Rings is all about strength. You will see some swing skills, like that giant to handstand. But really, at the end of the day, if you don't have the big strength moves like the Malteses, which we'll see later, you're not going to put up those huge numbers.
Chuck Schemelka said they recruited on rings in the offseason, trying to get better scores. Oh, my.
Oh, and that is, man, things not not going well so far for Nebraska, and just overdoes it. And that's why that dismount's difficult. It's a blind landing. You don't know where you are really until your feet hit the mat. A big opportunity for Penn State now.
All right, move back over to the senior, Braden Borromeo, averaging a 14.25.
There you go. Nailed the landing. Penn State, look out. They had a 3.6 lead coming into this rotation. Nebraska struggling on rings. Penn State landing their vaults, and with that one, landing it with authority. Little foot form coming onto the table. Feet were apart. You can watch real close right there. Feet crossed a little bit in the air, but that is a pretty textbook landing. They may argue.
I remember last year at the Big Ten Championships on the rings, Braden Borromeo, remember the clutch performance that he delivered, and then on they went to that Big Ten title.
They had to hit, clutch moment, needed it, got it done, barely winning that title, but they don't care by how much. They just got it. So I was saying that landing, I don't know that you can find a whole lot of deductions. The judges may say his shoulders were low, but be hard-pressed to do that.
So Kenji Tamani still waiting on the score for Tyndall.
12.75, not good either.
Tamani, the freshman from Canada, had his career high at Illinois.
Upright legs together plunge. They like those legs together plunges in Lincoln.
Chuck said this is their most improved event from last season.
And I could see that. I mean, their mistakes that they're making are just, they're unfortunate dismount landings, but other than that, the routines look great while they're on the apparatus. Big double-double, makes that one. Got a 3/10 step on the landing, but much, much improved. Man, the Cornhuskers needed that one. Back up, his legs together, plunge. Now those feet drop, and that is a pretty significant deduction, but he goes right to the bounce cross or the Nakayama.
So here we go. Fourth up, Robbie Shamp for Penn State.
It'll be the same vault we just saw. I was a little surprised by Borromeo's score. It was pretty low. That was a big vault, though. Did go out of bounds, out of the line. Again, the Sukahara with the double twist. You saw the feet apart again, coming onto the table. There's a great view of the line. Again, right off the board, he kind of goes to the left side of that table and then can't get it back inside the lines.
So Shamp, who had a career high at the West Point Open of 14.25, went out of bounds. As we move back to the rings, and Evan Hymanson, the junior from Marlboro, New Jersey, set a career high last year on the rings of a 13.65. His season high this year is a 13.5, as he's averaging just under a 13.4. Do expect to see Evan Priley as well participate, but Evan will be part of the 5-up 5 count, and they'll have to count that 12.4 from Mr. Tyndall, as he was not able to stick his dismount.
Yeah, 2 scores in the 12s when you're at a 5-up 5 count point of the season is not what you want. That is not going to make Chuck Schmelka happy. It's not a crisis situation, as we mentioned, though. For Chuck, it's hey, just land your dismounts, man. Land your dismounts clean, and this event looks completely different for Nebraska.
I do need to remind you that their leader in the rings, Nikita Belatsky, was the other gentleman you saw on crutches. He's out for the season, was 11th in the Big Ten. That's a big loss. There you see Jake Bonet and Nikita Belatsky, 2 big losses. Belatsky will be shut down for the season. There is hope that Bonet will make it back. the only all-arounder, Evan Criley. He had his season high, also his career high against the Golden Gophers of 13.15, but actually we'll see Evan Hymanson first, my apologies.
14.25, that's nice. That is big, man, they needed that. That actually outscores all of the vaulters so far from Penn State. That's tough to do. Beautiful sequence right there. Evan is scheduled to start from a 14.7. Very difficult in men's gymnastics to get less than 1 point off in execution deductions.
Hymanson qualified for the NCAAs in the rings and the P-bars a year ago.
There it is. There's the 1.5 twist. Gets the bonus 10th. Bonnet is not competing, but he's not giving up, man. He is there on the sidelines trying to be a leader and doing just that. This is great. 1.5 twist, perfect form in the air. Finds the landing. That probably is not going to break that 14 mark, but it's still outstanding.
Yeah, that was big time when Nebraska needed it, as Penn State was starting to pull away. Here's Pantazis, as you see the score for Champ, the best score so far for Borromeo.
This is a big vault. He's going to add a half twist, so this starts from a 15.2, raising the difficulty level. Nice. Again, form break coming on, and he kind of snuck that last half twist in there before his feet hit. I'll be curious to see, did he finish this twist? There's the form break, probably 3/10 deductions. And watch right there, you can see the feet kind of pointing a little to the right side. Judges probably are going to hit him a little bit on that. We're seeing it in slow motion, though. They're real time. So I don't know what they'll do with that, but a 15.2 start value, that's going to be a nice score for them.
He likes being on BTN, Pantazis does. He had a 14.5 against the Buckeyes. We'll see what his score is, but not before we see the aforementioned participant in the all-around, the only one again, Evan Criley. You see his scores in the first two rotations. Criley, as I said earlier, set his season high and career high against Minnesota this year.
Clean routine. Another 1.5 twist. Big step on the landing. But again, that's probably going to be a score Nebraska wishes they would have had in their first 5, because that would have helped their team total. But nice job for young Criley.
Nebraska 10th in the nation on the rings. Their superstar is out, so Kenji Tamani, the freshman, delivering a big score for the Cornhuskers as they try to hang with Penn State. Through 3 rotations, Penn State undefeated leads Nebraska by over 7 points, as we're pleased to be joined by the top man for Nebraska, 3-time national champion as an athlete at the Cornhuskers. And Chuck, devastated by injuries this past week. Got off to a great start, but the last 2 rotations kind of brought you down a little bit. Your thoughts through 3, Coach?
Well, we made a few too many mistakes for sure, but the young guys they're hanging in there, they're fighting. Our best 3 events are coming up, so I expect us to gain some ground and hopefully pull out some victory still.
Chuck, you've had some key injuries this season as of late. How has the team handled that adversity?
Well, we'll see today. Really, a lot of them happened this week, and it's been kind of a downer week. It's been rough, but no excuses. We got to pull together and fight and get it, you know?
Chuck, one thing that's not a downer, as we're showing right now on the Big Ten Network, is your brand new gymnastics training center named after your coach, Francis Allen. This place looks amazing, Coach.
It is. It's amazing. It's going to be the best training gym in the country. Every time I walk in there, I just go, wow, I can't believe this.
And it's named after Sir Francis Allen. Chuck, always appreciate your time. We'll see you in Minnesota. Good luck the rest of the way.
Very good. Very
Thanks,
good.
Chuck.
Thank you, guys.
All right, Chuck Schemelka, how cool does the Francis Allen Training Center look?
I mean, first of all, appropriately named. Francis Allen, a legend in gymnastics in the state of Nebraska, and man, it's cool. I'm jealous, man. It's going to be top notch, and you know, who knows? Maybe I got a little gymnastics left in me. Maybe I can get it back up there and do something.
I think you got a lot in you as we go to the rings. Penn State, of course, led by their anchor who could challenge for a national champion, Eric Long, the sophomore from Livingston, New Jersey. 13-4 career high set this year at the West Point Open.
Big lead, as we mentioned, 7.55 Penn State over Nebraska. Chuck said their best 3 events are yet to come, but they've got to start to make a move. They've got to chip away a little bit at that lead each rotation, and with routines like that from Lung, it's going to make it hard on the Cornhuskers. This was good. Little twisting double tuck dismount, sticks the landing. Low shoulders will be a deduction, but he'll still get that bonus 10th.
Penn State 5th in the nation on the rings. As we move over to Dylan Young, 2 freshmen, 2 sophomores in the rotation for Coach Chuck Schemelka, who was kind enough to join us a moment ago.
Vault's going to look familiar. The double twist again. Over the line with the left foot and took a step. We've seen this exact vault score right around the 14 mark, give or take a 10th or 2. Foot form coming on, but very clean in the air. Definitely that foot over the line. You can be on the line, you just can't have any of those toes or part of the foot go over that white line. That is a 1/10 deduction.
Move back over to Sam Zakutny, the focus right there for the senior. How about that extra deep breath? Reflecting just a little bit. That's like you right before you're teeing off on the golf course right there.
Right before that slice, right before that slice. No, that's a big thing in men's gymnastics and women's gymnastics, honestly, is that visualization. You know, you don't have a defense, so it's just you and the apparatus. So visualizing your routines, going through it in your head over and over, it's not quite like actually doing it, but certainly it's a percentage of that. And that is a big thing for athletes in gymnastics to do, and gets them in that right mindset, gets them focused, and that's exactly what Sam's doing right there.
Sam's career high is a 13.9. He had his season best against William and Mary at a 13.3. And if you've been following Randy Jepson's team, perfect on the season, 10-0, but they've been doing it without a fully healthy Sam Zakutny, and they're working Sam back in. He's getting closer to the all-around. Certainly, I don't know about you, but I'm hoping come Big Ten championship time in Minnesota, where it'll be a double red carpet because you're going to be there, JR, but I'm hoping he'll be in the all-around.
Yeah, you know, I think he will. Vault he will not be doing today. He's not great on pommel horse. He probably won't be in there counting 5 scores on that event regardless, but I suspect he will be that 6th man to try to win that all-around title at the Big Ten championships.
I feel like we've been saying Zakutny for a long time on BTN as he burst onto the scene right as a superstar freshman.
It does seem that way. Nice straddle planche. One thing about Sam is he usually does not give the judges a lot of room to take deductions. Such a clean gymnast. One of the most aesthetically sound athletes in the NCAA.
Look at him fight through that.
Eric Lung just a 13.45 to start with, which actually not a bad starting score, and just on cue. I say he doesn't give a lot of room for error. Just did not pull through the rings enough before he let go on that dismount. And we talked about his bad ankle, and this is not good for your ankles. Ooh. You just hope it's not a setback on those ankles, because that does not feel good. Even when you're healthy, that does not feel good.
We'll see. I like Chuck Shimelka's attitude. Despite being down 7 through 3, he was talking about coming back and winning this thing.
And that right there, this is an opening. From Sam's ring routine to this vault could be easily be a 1-point swing, if not more, for Nebraska. Another double twist. Lacked a little bit of height, a little amplitude off the vault table. Otherwise, it was pretty good. To see that just pop a little bit more up, it'll help him stick the landing as well. It takes that step, probably a 1/10 step. Actually looked pretty good from that angle.
Zach Peters had a career high last year of a 14.6 on the vault. And as you see Randy Jepson right behind Braden Borromeo, reminding you that it was Borromeo that really had that strong performance on the rings, where all of a sudden, I'll never forget it, JR, you're like sitting there going, Penn State's going to make a run at this thing, and they got it.
They did, and we knew exactly what they needed to score, and I think they shocked a lot of people in that venue.
But they didn't shock Randy Jepson.
No,
if you remember, he walked by, he had that twinkle in his eye as if they were going to get it done.
I think he liked that. He was like, yeah, you just pay attention to everyone else. And we probably were for much of that competition, but we knew at the end what was going down, and he got it done. And that's the beauty of the Big Ten, man. It is wide open, and I feel like any of the teams this year, and I don't say this as hyperbole, but sincerely, that any of these teams, you know, they put together a great meet in Minneapolis at the beginning of April, and they could end up being the Big Ten champions. Nobody knows it better than that man right there, Randy Jepson.
Extra time waiting. We saw Sam Zakutny wait. We've seen Braden wait. Did that slow you down at all? Did that change your mental approach when you had to wait a little extra longer there,
Yeah,
John?
it does, because you have a routine that you go through before the routine. You go to the chalk tray, you do a mental routine, you take a deep breath, you raise your hand, and you go. And when that gets interrupted, it can make it more difficult. I'm guessing the judges on Sam's routine, they were trying to decipher what to do with that dismount. It was supposed to be a laid out full twisting double back. It was clearly not laid out, and he fell. So sometimes that takes a little while to calculate.
Still waiting on the Zakutny score. Braden Borromeo. This young man probably doesn't get enough credit for being a rock in this Penn State lineup for a long time.
And he needs to be a rock right now because of a 12.2 from Sam Zakutny. So Penn State giving back a lot so far in this rotation, but Borromeo trying to stop the bleeding. Gotta stick this. I'm not sure if he stuck the landing. Certainly did not quite make the twist around. But man, what a fighter. What a fighter. Here, this will be a good look at it. Did he slide the foot? Yeah, you can't give him the stick. He moved that right foot ever so slightly, but a stick's a stick, man. That means you don't move those feet at all. Yarotska pumping him up from the sidelines.
He is so much fun.
He is an interesting cat.
He was. How about that interview? His focus on the interview was awesome, as he was almost looking into the light, right?
Yep, I love it.
Through us is Kenji Tamani, the freshman from Canada.
Handspring double front. Man, my knees hurt just watching that. Holy cow. So much going on. 3 flips actually from the time he leaves the board. Woo! Watch out, the kneecaps might be coming into your living room right here. Man! But he stays on his feet, and that is the critical part. Steps over the line, big step over the line, but man, that's a big time vault, and it's worth a lot more bonus. 15-2 start value.
Move back over to rings. Parker Clayton, who has battled through a shoulder injury, He's got a career high of 14.35, All-America status in this event, is Clayton.
Nice Maltese position. We mentioned those earlier, how big those are on rings. If you can do that, means you got some start value. And he does a 15.5 start value. These last two ring routines for Penn State are huge. Isaac Hammett will anchor this rotation. So these guys are capable of scoring into the 14s, and they need it to keep pace with Nebraska on vault. Oh, just what Randy Jepson needed. Through 3 athletes on each event, it's down to about a 5-point lead, so cut into it by about 2.5 points did Nebraska, but this will help a lot.
The camera finds Yarotska, who submits his approval for the stuck landing there for Clayton. As we move back over to Charlie Giles, you see Tamani with that 14.15. Great on the rings, great on the vault for the youngster.
And this is another 15.2 start value to Yurchenko style vault, but a 2.5 twist. Well done. Little form in the air and a small hop on the landing, but again, a higher start value vault, equal to the highest start value we'll see in this competition. Pretty darn good. I could see the judges taking 3 for the air form. Probably a 3/10 hop. They're pretty tough on those, man. But could be in the mid-14s. That would be a big score on vault tonight.
He's a returning All-American and a big reason why Nebraska finished 3rd in the country last year. Coming up next on BTN, it's Big Ten hockey. Wisconsin battles Ohio State in the regular season finale. The puck drops next on BTN and the Fox Sports app. Isaac Hammett, you're looking at a gentleman here that Randy Jepson firmly believes can win a national championship this year. Former NCAA finalist a year ago, and he is a big-time performer on the rings. Season high this year of 14.35. Last year, he had a 14.8, which is the kind of number it's going to take to win a national championship.
No, absolutely, and they would love to see that right here.
Senior from Sacramento, California.
Beautiful Maltese position, textbook. Nice, bounced across, pulls back to the Maltese. This is ridiculous strength.
He's 3rd in the Big Ten, 5th in the country is Hammett.
Uprise iron cross, strength move at the end of the routine. Cross pull out, so difficult to do that late in the routine. Little swing there, that's a deduction there, the still rings. You do not want any swing back and forth. Full twisting double layout, little form in the air, small hop, but that is what they needed. Had some airs early in the rotation, but 2 outstanding routines to finish. And this is the strength we're talking about. Back up rise right to the Maltese. Front lever bounce cross. Opens the hands to show the judges he's got the right wrist position. Pulls into that Maltese. Here's the full twist and double layout. Like to see him a little tighter in the air. Nicely done. 14.8 for Charlie Giles, by the way. That is a big vault score. They needed it.
Career high for Charlie Giles, as here's the all-arounder Evan Criley.
Another 2.5 twist. Trying to rally his team. Another 15-2. We saw Giles do the Yarotska-style vault 2.5 twist, but here is the Sukahara type. Big form break, though, coming onto that vault table. Feet were way apart, even bent the knees, but with the 15-2 start, it's still going to score well.
We heard confidence from Nebraska head coach Chuck Schemelka. He still believed, despite being down 7-3, led by the sophomore Charlie Giles. This performance right here, a career-high 14-8, and Nebraska draws closer against Penn State. Through 4 rotations here in Lincoln, Penn State 275.65, Nebraska 271.45. We can call him a lifer now at Penn State. The head coach of the Penn State men's gymnastics team, Randy Jepson, joins us now. Randy, your thoughts through 4 rotations, please.
Well, we're hitting routines, and that's all you can ask for. You know, I told my guys, you got to put your foot on the throat of your opponent, and we'll see what happens after 10 more routines.
Hey, Randy, just backing up to Yarotska for a minute. We're all very excited to see him go to these World Cups. How are you managing him with the collegiate season, then also trying to make his dream come true to be an Olympian?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, he is absolutely exhausted right now. So we changed his routine up a little bit so that he could, you know, rest his wrist a little bit. But, you know, he's going to go home, and we're going to give him a rest day or so. No morning practice for Steven. We got to get him ready for the longevity of not just this season, but that Olympic bid. And there's a lot of travel ahead, and we'll see what happens.
Finally, Coach, earlier we showed Yarotska winning that World Cup. We also showed your team winning the Thon yet again. What's that mean to you, Coach?
You know, when you can get in front of 16,000 fans for a good cause, you know, raising money for kids with pediatric cancer and go out and perform, these guys prepare, they love it, it's part of their season, it's one of their team goals every year, and they were glad to bring home the title.
All right, Randy, speaking of titles, we'll see you in Minnesota as you go for back-to-back Big Ten titles. Thanks for being with us, Coach.
Thank you.
All right, Randy Jepson, I think 29 more is possible.
He seems like it, right? He doesn't seem like he's ready to hang it up by any stretch of the imagination. You know, they're going to go for 5 wins in a row in the Thon, right, next year? I think they need to put him in there, and if I don't see him do the robot, then I think they shouldn't be allowed to win it.
All right, how about him saying now they got to hold on? He talked about putting the foot on the throat of Nebraska. They let Nebraska crawl back into this a little bit after the positive message from Chuck Schemelka, so who knows what can happen here, John?
Yeah, no, they knocked 3 points off of that lead, and I mentioned going into that last rotation, they're going to have to chip away at it. Each of these last 3 rotations took a huge chunk out of it right there with 2 rotations to go, 4.2 lead. You can't go into the last event down 4 points. So what Nebraska needs to do right now, they need to make that 4-point lead go down to maybe about a 2-point lead with 1 to go, and then they just got to knock it out of the park. Hope Penn State gives them an opening and try to steal this one back.
So there's the lineup for Nebraska on the parallel bars. 2 sophomores, 3 juniors, led off by Dylan LeClaire. The sophomore, our first look at LeClaire, who's got a 13-3 this year versus Minnesota and Army.
Beautiful giant double back.
Nebraska 3rd in the nation on the P-bar.
Oh, man. And I have been there many times. You always double check to make sure all your fingers are still straight after a mistake like that. Just didn't wrap his hand around the rail. He made the most of it. He salvaged what he could, but that's an unfortunate way to start in a moment where they look like they're getting some momentum, Dean. Here's the big release, though. Giant double back called a bell. Watch us see what happens with his hands. Yep, you can see the left hand didn't get over the rail. I don't even know how he stayed on the bar, to be honest with you. That was magic. There's some hocus pocus going on that one. I do not know. That could have been a point off, and he saved it, probably a half a point instead.
Yeah, he basically stayed on with one arm. Great shot by our BTN crew. Beautiful view as we see Penn State.
High bar, a very tough event to score big on. You'll see a lot of scores in the 13s for very good routines. So if Nebraska's going to make a big move, this is a rotation to do it. Penn State on high bar, a lower scoring event. Oh, and that's an error. And them on parallel bars, they need to make a move, capitalize on it. Full twist and double layout, big step on the landing.
So Nate Warren, who has only done this event twice this year, gets the handshake there from Randy Jepson. Penn State is 9th in the nation on the high bar and the P-bars. 9th in both events as Warren gets high fives from all his teammates, including Sam Zakutny.
He starts from a 14.4 on that routine, and he had quite a few errors. Handstand positions are critical on high bar. We'll talk about that throughout the next 2 rotations. So I would be surprised if he breaks a 13, which is going to bode well for Nebraska after that early mistake on parallel bars.
Move back over to Jonathan Skripnik, the junior from Canada, part of Futures Gymnastics. This is his first time on the P-bars. We'll see what Skripnik can do.
Beautiful peach to handstand on the end of the rails. Nice, it's called the Bobsar. Named after Ohio State gymnast and Olympic bronze medalist Raj Bobsar. This is a great set so far. Nebraska started with only a 12.8 from their first gymnast, so this routine is exactly what they needed. Big step on the landing, but that was fantastic gymnastics.
Give him credit for stepping up. Because of all the injuries, he gets in the lineup.
And they must be deep on this event, because if he hasn't been competing regularly, that says something about the rest of the team, because that was a good routine. Starts from a 14.8 and really gave very few deductions until that big step on the dismount.
So now we'll see Eric Lung. He set his career high on the high bar against the Buckeyes right here on BTN. That was a 13.35. That is a big difference between his season average of about a 12.6. So make no mistake, Randy Jepson would like to see Lung do what he did against the Buckeyes.
Simple release to start. Ooh, that was the handstand position. That skill's supposed to finish in a handstand. Massive deduction on that. Straddle to Kachev. Just the dismount. Triple back! Oh, he finishes with an exclamation point. Plenty of deductions during the routine, but man, when you finish like that, leaves a good taste in the judge's mouth. You get the bonus 10. Look at this, 3 flips, 1, 2, 3. That's exciting. Look at the team behind him, willing him.
That was huge.
And they needed it. Nate Warren, a 12.4 to lead off this rotation. As we mentioned, a 12.8 for Nebraska leading off their rotation. So ironically, even with that mistake from the Cornhuskers, they gained 0.4 of a point after one athlete.
So this is one of the studs for Nebraska on the P-bars, and certainly a key reason why Nebraska is 3rd in the nation. Evan Hymanson, he's 6th in the Big Ten, 13th in the nation, and Coach Chuck Shimelka puts him right in the middle of the lineup. Why does he do that? Your best scorer, why is he right in the middle?
Well, you know, first of all, your best score can change from meet to meet, but, you know, maybe you're trying to set those last 2 guys up, squeeze a couple tenths out of the last guys. Little strategy. Ooh, and that did not sound like it felt good. Might have been a kneecap meeting wooden rail on that skill. There's another Bobsar, beautiful. Just the pelt back to the middle. It's called a Healy twirl. Well done. They need a clean dismount, though. Fortunes can change on the dismount, as we have seen. Double pike. Not bad. They got to like that one. Evans starts from a 15.6. That's a big start value. Did have some deductions in there, but that still should be a big number. I would be surprised if it's not into the 14s. Skripnik got a 13.9, so I suspect that one will go up.
Andres Perez set a career high at Army of a 13.8. He's got a nice clean routine with a solid dismount, according to Coach Jepson.
So the first gymnast up for each team, Nebraska picked up 4/10. The second gymnast up, they picked up 8 more. So 1.2 of that 4.2 that they need. Gotcha with a half turn that's called the Lynch, named after Jair Lynch, 92-96 Olympian for the United States. It's a half tock. That was closer to a handstand. Oh, and you could tell right away off the bar that was not going to be caught. Could not rotate his body back towards the bar. That's 1 point off in deductions. He also will not get the value of that skill. Watch right here. You can see he's sitting back a little too much. You like to see that chest and shoulders turn over towards the bar a little bit more. Very critical after a fall, especially in 5-up, 5 count, that you get yourself together, take a deep breath, gather yourself, and hit clean the rest of the way. This score is going to count. Don't make something bad turn into a catastrophe. Does it again. There you go. You can see how much more turned over he was on that. Just his dismount now. Full-twisting double layout, decent finish.
Push back over to the P-bars for Nebraska.
Nice, 14.4 from Hymanson.
King.
Oh, and another error just when they had an opportunity. Penn State with a miss on a high bar. Set it up on a silver platter for Nebraska, and they cannot capitalize. Oh, Chuck Shamelka has got to just have steam coming out of his ears.
Hymanson just tying his career high.
Beautiful double pike at the end, but that is just too bad. Just grabbing those bars, sometimes you get up there and it's a lot trickier than it seems. They still absolutely will gain ground on Penn State between those last two athletes. It's just not going to be as much as Nebraska would have liked.
Alex Frack due up next for Penn State. He's averaging just under 14 on the season. He's had the second highest score in the country already, and he set a career high with a 14.0. He is steady as a rock, according to head coach Randy Jepson. And you remember that Ohio State match, it was Zakutny still banged up, and Randy Jepson said, you make sure you talk about Mr. Frack, because he's holding us together right now as Penn State trying to go 11-0 in back-to-back years.
And this meet just got a lot more pesky. Looks like Randy's got a judging question. That look on his face right there, that equals what are the judges thinking? You've probably seen it before, Dean. If you look over and you're a judge and you see that face, you just turn back. That long division can sometimes be pesky.
They're crunching it up. Let's show you that look from Randy Jepson again if we can, as they put it out there. There it is. That's the look, right?
That's his happy face right there.
That's not true.
No, we saw
He's
that
always
happy face at the Big Ten. Yeah, he is. He is. He enjoys what he does. Obviously been there for a long time. And we saw that joy, the Big Ten championships last year. So that 5-1 that they showed us should have been the start value. Not obviously nothing to do with the final, well, has something to do with the final score, but not an indication necessarily of what that's going to be.
Frack had to wait a little extra time here. The Cornhuskers clawing their way back into it.
Wow, wrong way. Extra swing. Things are going off the rail. No pun intended for Penn State. Good dismount, but that skill that went the wrong direction, that's a major deduction. Tried to cover it up the best he could, and he did, but that'll be a half a point. You hear the teammates, good adjustment, and it was about as good as you could handle it.
That's exactly what it was, as Griffin Keeler, the anchor, boy, that Dylan King score 13-2 after that leadoff of 12-8. Nebraska had a chance to blow that door wide open here.
And they still are going to make this really tight after 5, I have a feeling. If Griffin can knock this out of the park.
His career high is a 14.05 that was set back in 2018.
Oh, it was good until the end. Definitely gonna be probably close to 6/10 in deductions, a couple of 3/10 steps at least on that landing. Probably about 2.5 points after 3 routines. Nebraska chipped away into that 4.2 lead. Let's see what he did right here. You do the math. 1, 2, yeah, two big steps, 6/10 in deductions to an otherwise very good routine.
So now, Sam Zakutny. How many times have we seen Penn State when they needed a big score to make up for a little hiccup? This young man has been up to the challenge.
We saw it happen in Happy Valley earlier this season. Ohio State coming to visit, down to the wire at the end. Sam still on that injured ankle, watered down some of his landings, but did enough and put his team on his back, and they got the win. It was amazing.
So here's Zakutny, who serves as the anchor on the high bar and the P bars.
Beautiful skill right there, Zolimin.
He's had a career high of 14.7 on the high bar.
From the releases. Beautiful straddle for Tkachev, right to a laid out to Tkachev. There's the lynch, but he did it from a laid out to Tkachev instead of a straddled one. Beautiful half tock, right to the handstand. One more release. Zakutny trying to save the meat for Penn State. Unbelievable. That high bar routine was massive. If they win this meet with the mistakes that they've had, that is the one routine I'm going to look back on and say, this is where it turned for Penn State. Beautiful sequence right there. Only thing he was really missing is a stuck landing, but hey, the guy's got a hurt ankle, Dean. You got to go easy on him.
Yeah, just those 2 little steps, but he was firing on all cylinders for Penn State. Zakutny, the former Canada Junior Olympic champion, as we take a look at the only all-arounder going today, Evan Criley. His season high is a 13-3.
Before the score for Griffin Kaler came in, there was 4 scores for each team in. At that point, with 4 scores for each team in this rotation, the lead was down to 0.6 of a point. But guess who was in the lead? Nebraska, before that last routine.
Wow.
They had a 0.6 lead over Penn State. Those mistakes were costly, but Sam Zakutny wasn't enough to get back the lead with that 5th routine. We shall see.
So Criley, again, this will not count toward the 5-up, 5 count for Nebraska, and he is the only all-arounder going. Keep in mind, on the P-bars for Nebraska, Mitch Tyndall is out of the P-bars because of injury at a 14.3 career high against Iowa this year, and Dylan Young at a 13.35 career high. They're both out of the P-bar lineup.
Riley comes from LaFleur's Tampa Gymnastic Club in Florida, owned by Jeff LaFleur, former Golden Gopher. Nice job. He's a nice gymnast. He's going to do some good things for the Cornhuskers.
Nebraska has drawn closer, though, but thanks to Sam Zakutny, who has been a rock for Penn State, a rock in the Big Ten for 4 years. They needed a big score, and he delivers it. Slim lead right now through 5 here in Lincoln. Later tonight on BTN, The Big Show delivers highlights, post-game interviews, and expert analysis, plus all the news and notes from around the conference. Don't miss The Big Show tonight at 10:30 Eastern on BTN and the Fox Sports app. We got a pretty big show here through 3 rotations. Check this out. Penn State led the host team, Nebraska, by over 7 points. Through 5 rotations and with just 1 remaining, as we await a final score, we think Nebraska may have taken the lead over Penn State. Chuck Shemelka said it was possible.
And he was right, because they have the lead, and it looks like after a late score change from the last rotation, it looks like a 2.5 lead for Nebraska. That means that they had a 4.45 swing in 1 rotation, and that is just silly. That's great for the corner. It could have been worse, too. They left some points on the table in that last event, but you know what? Penn State can say the same thing.
So here we go, just setting the table. As we go to the final rotation, we can tell you that Nebraska is 8th in the nation on the high bar. Penn State is 9th in the nation on P-bars. So I feel like they're dead even right here. Who is the favorite going into this last rotation?
Well, rankings are one thing, but each event scores a little different. You know, the highest scores in the country on vault are going to be a lot higher than the highest scores on high bar. But if you want to compare high scores for these 2 teams on these events, Penn State on parallel bars is 67.35 as their high on the season. For Nebraska on high bar, their highest score this season is a 66.5. So, you know, that gives you an idea. I give the edge to Penn State in this rotation just based on how these 2 teams are on these events and how they're scored. But Dino, you mind if I call you Dino?
I don't mind.
Anything can happen, man. We've seen a lot of mistakes from these teams so far tonight. It has not been a pretty meet. So this last event, it could be a circus.
It just shows, I think, how exciting it's going to be in Minnesota for the Big Ten championships, where, you know, you hear that cliche, anybody can win it. That is the dead truth when it comes to Big Ten men's gymnastics.
You know it. Imagine what's happening right here, going on 6 events simultaneously. It's craziness.
So here we go. Nick Mock set a career high of 13-2. He had 2 career highs against the Buckeyes. And we remind everybody, when Randy Jepson was recruiting him, his work on P-bars did not entice him a whole lot, did it?
He didn't think this was going to happen right here, and it has, and it's been a good thing for Penn State. I love that old school type skill, the back uprise, back stutz. Used to be in the 1996 compulsory a couple and a half decades ago. Oh, and we've already got a big error, and that's what I'm talking about. An event, Penn State, they just hit, they just get through relatively clean. They're gonna win this meet, but he leans back too far right there. Nothing you can do in that situation. Wow.
Our first look at the 5-up, 5-count part of the season. Randy Jepson, I said it earlier, called it white knuckle time. And I got to go back to Chuck Schmelka. We interview him, he's down 7. I thought maybe he's going to be grumpy. He was as positive as he can be.
And he had a reason to be, apparently. And this is just gymnastics. Anything can happen. 5-up, 5-count, you have a mistake here, you have a fall there, and the meet can turn on a dime, and that's exactly what has happened here. Finishes strong, but all right. It just got interesting. This is not an automatic for Nebraska by any means. They're on high bar, high flying event, the risk reward event for men's gymnastics.
So now we get to see the baby face of Sam Phillips, this youngster. Chuck Schmelka, high praise for. This is his first event, the freshman from Woodland Hills, California. He had a 13-1 against Minnesota.
Beautiful laid out to Kachev. I love this kid's look on the high bar. Long legs. Good body line. Man, a big air on those release moves. Very flat on that half top. Needs to be right in the handstand like we saw from Sam Zakutny. Great start. Wow. The green flag is out. That means we got another stuck dismount. Sam Phillips, he starts from a 14-9. And I love it, the team is surrounding him.
What a landing by Phillips. And I got to know, would that green flag work with a club sandwich?
We'll find out. We will find out, won't we?
Look at Phillips feeling it.
Wow, this looked like it was going to be a yawner, Dean, as we headed into the second half of the meet. Did not look like it was going to be interesting, but it is absolutely that. And now the pressure is on.
Yeah, all the momentum with the home team as we move back to Brennan Pantazis. Taz's average this year at 13.28. He's got a career high of a 13.95. If they ever needed a 13.95, it's right now.
They do. Nick Mock only a 12.4 to lead off. High bar, not a high-scoring event. I don't suspect we're going to see a 14 from their leadoff gymnast, but certainly more than a 12.4. Front 1.25. This has been a pretty good routine so far. They need to start sticking some landings is what Penn State needs to do. Hop on that, but that's all right. That was a good set. Starts from a 14.8. Here's your hop. Is this a 1 or a 3? It's close. And when it's close, it usually means it's a 3. Man, oh man, we've got to see what Sam Phillips got for that leadoff high bar score. And we will see how much more they extended that lead. Already led by 0.25 coming into this final rotation, did Nebraska.
Chuck Schmelka, final word for Evan Hymanson, the junior from Monmouth Gymnastics Academy. is 13-7 this season, ties his career high.
Starts from a 14.8 in this routine. Nice laid out to Kachev, right where it needs to be. Straddled. Sam Phillips got a 12.95, so the lead is 0.8 of a point for Nebraska after one athlete on both pieces of equipment. Oh, Chuck wanted that. He wanted that stuck landing. That's a step, but otherwise a great set. Here it is again. Does he need to take this step? Oh man, it's easy for us to say he didn't sitting here, but when you're the athlete, just that slight off balance, you need to make that move.
Yeah, he kept one foot down, John, but moved the other one as Andres Perez takes his shot right in the middle of the 5-up, 5-count order for Penn State here. Last rotation, Penn State with that 7-point lead through 3. Right now, Nebraska leading it.
Pantazis got a 12.8. So we will compare that score to Hymanson's high bar score. Oh, and he's off. Every one of those steps is a 10th, plus he broke form. Avoids catastrophe, though. Nice to pelt to the end of the bars. There's the Bobsar, mega difficulty. And he's working hard on this routine, though. You just hope he's not gassed. As a gymnast, if you have to work a little extra hard on each skill, by the time you get to this point, do you got enough juice? He does. Wow, did they need that. Excellent fight.
Move back over to high bar. The only participant in the all-around, Evan Criley. 13.25 season and career high set this year against Iowa. Up he goes.
Evan Hymanson, a 13.5 for his routine. They pick up 7 more tenths. The lead is now 1.5 points for Nebraska. Beautiful. A little off right there. Manages it. At this point, the script has flipped. Nebraska just needs to be clean and stay on the bar. Gets the bonus 10th. Shows it off like a toothpick in a club sandwich.
There it is. Get that green flag out and put it in the club sandwich.
Riley, just a sophomore in a big spot. Wow.
That might do it right there.
It is going to be tough. Andre Perez, a 12.5 on parallel bars. Penn State hasn't even broken a 13 yet in this rotation. Now they need to start breaking 14s or they got no hope.
Alex Frack averaging 13.0. His career high is a 14.0.
And it's a mistake, and this is just gone sideways for Penn State. I hate to see it come down this way, but oh, and there's more deductions. Double pike, big hop. Sometimes, man, making mistakes in gymnastics, it can be contagious. It's like shooting threes in basketball. You start missing them, and it's just hard to get back on track. That is so unfortunate. They have a big one left in Sam Zakutny, but unless they get some help from Nebraska, and when I mean help, Nebraska's got to make some mistakes.
Well, and
for Penn State to win it.
It only gets better, though, for Nebraska. Dylan King is their leader. He's 14th in the Big Ten, 24th in the nation. He is their best scorer on the high bar. The sophomore from Eagle Mountain, Utah, got his career high against Iowa this year with a 13.85. Nebraska, after a tough Big Ten championships, third in the NCAAs, and started off the season 6-2.
Big release, full twisting Kovacs, called a Coleman. This is big time. All kinds of risk, but they're pulling it out. They're going to get the reward if he can just finish this strong. Another stuck landing. The lead was 2.1 after 3 gymnasts from each team in this rotation, and it's going to get bigger. Wow. Here's the big release, the Coleman. Are you kidding me? The difficulty and the risk you take when you do that skill. The Huskers loving it.
Devaney is rocking the Devaney Center. All of the fans hung with this team, down 7-3 as we move back to Zakutny. The Big Ten champion on the P-bars, but perhaps too little, too late. But if anybody can bring home a big score, we saw him do it on the high bar, and now this is his best event, the P-bars.
It's got to be a career score. Frack got a 12.45. They just gave up more points after the 4th guy from each team has gone. Certainly Dylan King is going to score higher than a 12.45. As I mentioned, after 3, it was a 2.1 lead for Nebraska.
Zakutny's career high on the P-bars of 14-9.
This is not going to be a 14-9. It's a good routine, but you can tell he's just working a little too hard on some of these skills, and that's a huge deduction. Low on the landing, step on the landing, and I'm sure that ankle is just putting salt in the wound right now. Not a great finish for Penn State. Very unfortunate. So now all Griffin Kaler's got to do is he's just got to stay on the bar. Avoid catastrophe, avoid missing a couple of release moves, honestly. He's got to fall twice, most likely, for Penn State now to pull this miracle out.
Don't forget, coming up next on the Big Ten Network, Big Ten hockey, Ohio State and Wisconsin. But not before Griffin Keeler tries to put a stamp on this come-from-behind victory for Nebraska. And if he can, it'll be Penn State's first loss of the season. Penn State started 11-0 last year before losing to the Buckeyes. They start 10-0 this year. And it looks like the Cornhuskers on senior day for Jake Bonet, who is out, perhaps giving the senior a little special treat here with a big win over Penn State.
Yep, going into that Sam Zakutny score, Nebraska had a lead of 3.65. And that is a career high for King of a 14-0. Wow. Very timely. Huge laid out to Koch. If you want to know what it feels like to fly, that is what it feels like. Outstanding. Kaler's not just getting through this routine, he is icing this. They want a stuck landing to finish, they get it. Keeler finishes an unbelievable comeback.
Nebraska down 7 after 3. They give Penn State their first loss of the season, and the home crowd loves every second of it. We'll wrap things up when we come back. Nebraska victorious over Penn State.
Names matter. Your name, the name you've made for yourself, and the name of the company you represent. That's why at 4imprint, every name and logo is printed with certainty. Right the first time, on time, every time, at a great price, guaranteed. Because when you have passion, integrity, and certainty, the only name they'll remember is yours. Explore thousands of promotional products at 4imprint.com. 4imprint, for certain.
Support your favorite college at Fanatics.com. The largest assortment of officially licensed